And I'm Ashley Thompson.
This is VOA News. Reporting by remote, I'm David Byrd. U.S. President Joe Biden says it would be a disaster for Russia if it chooses to invade Ukraine. Speaking at a White House news conference Wednesday, Biden said that the United States and its allies are ready to impose sanctions and other consequences on Russia if it does invade Ukraine. The president said that Russian President Vladimir Putin had a stark choice: de-escalation and diplomacy, or confrontation and the consequences.
The cost of going into Ukraine in terms of physical loss of life for the Russians, they'll be able to prevail over time, but it's going to be heavy. It's going to be real. It's going to be consequential.
Russia has 100,000 troops stationed along its border with Ukraine, and the United States and its NATO allies are concerned that Moscow might be planning to invade its former Soviet state. Russia has denied it is planning to invade, but has demanded guarantees that Ukraine would not be allowed to join NATO, a demand that the United States opposes. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Wednesday announced the end of COVID-19 measures introduced to curb the rapid spread of the Omicron variant in England, as he looks to live with the virus after a peak in cases. Speaking in Parliament, Johnson said most of Europe enforced strict COVID restrictions during the Omicron surge, but not Britain.
But this government took a different path. We kept England open, and we supported those businesses which faced reduced demand because of the response to Plan B measures. And while we must continue to remain cautious, the data are showing that time and again, this government got the toughest decisions right.
The lifting of Plan B measures could help Johnson appease vocal opponents of restrictions in his own caucus following a furor over lockdown gatherings at his office. This is VOA News. The U.S. Senate has launched an emotional and raw debate over voting rights legislation that's almost certain to be defeated in a big blow for Democrats. AP's Sagar Magani reports.
Leader Mitch McConnell's Republicans are unanimously against the legislation Democrats say is vital to protect democracy. He calls it hysteria.
It seems to exist only in their own imagination.
As he ended his speech,
would you entertain a question?
McConnell walked out, ignoring number 2 Senate Democrat Dick Durbin. Republicans argue new laws in several GOP-led states are not restricting voting rights, with Bill Cassidy blasting President Biden for calling them Jim Crow 2.0.
It tries to make people think that 2022 is the same as 1965.
Democrat Cory Booker responded.
I know this is not 1965. That's what makes me so outraged.
As accusations flew across the aisle, number 2 Republican John Thune may have summed up the day's emotion.
I am not a racist.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
The 5G dispute has been disrupting international air travel to the United States. AP's Mike Hempen reports.
Major international airlines have been canceling flights to the U.S. or changing the planes they're using. Some airlines say they received warnings from the Federal Aviation Administration or Boeing that the plane maker's 777 was particularly affected by the new wireless service. Mobile carriers AT&T and Verizon have agreed to pause the rollout of new high-speed wireless service near key airports. Boeing says it will work with the airlines, the FAA, and others to find a solution that would allow all planes to fly safely as 5G is rolled out. I'm Mike Hempen.
Information from the World Health Organization on the coronavirus pandemic is somewhat mixed. AP's Rita Foley has more.
The World Health Organization says the number of new coronavirus cases around the world rose by 20% last week. But that means that the Omicron surge is slowing. Last week, scientists said there were early signs here in the U.S. that Omicron-driven outbreaks may have peaked and the cases could soon fall off sharply. But WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has a warning.
Omicron continues to sweep the world. Last week, there were more than 18 million reported cases.
He said yesterday the WHO is concerned about the impact Omicron is having on already exhausted healthcare workers and overburdened healthcare systems. I'm Rita Foley.
Reporting by remote, I'm David